The world isn't always fair. And the sooner you understand this reality, the sooner you can stop feeling like a victim and start taking control of your life. Right now, while you're watching this, someone with less intelligence than you might be getting more respect. Someone weaker than you might have more influence. Someone with fewer skills might be living the life you want, simply because they understand human nature better than you do. Most of us have been programmed to play by rules that others stopped following long ago. We've been conditioned to be nice while others are being strategic. We've been taught to wait for respect while others are confidently claiming it. The game of life has its challenges, but here's the truth: it's not rigged against good people, it's rigged against those who refuse to understand how human psychology actually works. It's rigged against those who expect fairness from an unfair world. It's rigged against those who think good intentions alone should guarantee success. 500 years ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli observed the true mechanics of power and influence. Living in Renaissance Italy, surrounded by political intrigue and human complexity, he watched kingdoms rise and fall based on one simple principle: those who understand human psychology navigate life better than those who don't. His observations aren't just historical curiosities. They're practical insights for anyone who wants to stop being manipulated and start building genuine confidence. Today I'm going to share 8 psychological principles that will transform you from someone who gets overlooked to someone who becomes confidently self-assured and impossible to ignore. But I'll be honest, once you understand these principles, you'll never see social dynamics the same way again. You'll finally understand why some people naturally command respect while others struggle for recognition. Let me tell you about the moment everything changed for me. I used to be that guy who had all the right answers but no one listened. I was intelligent, hardworking, genuine, and completely invisible. I watched as confident people, sometimes less capable than me, got promoted. I saw charismatic individuals attract followers while I ate alone wondering what I was doing wrong. And then I realized the truth that no one wants to admit: the world doesn't just reward intelligence. It rewards influence. It doesn't just respect good hearts. It respects strong presence. It cares about character, but also about how that character is communicated. This realization didn't make me bitter, it liberated me. Understanding social dynamics doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming psychologically sophisticated. It means understanding that while you're playing checkers with good intentions, others are playing chess with calculated moves. Here's what I need you to do before we dive deep. Write this affirmation in the comments: I choose to understand human nature and build authentic confidence. This isn't just a comment. It's your first step toward psychological awareness. Because everything I'm about to share requires one fundamental shift: from feeling like a victim to becoming the author of your own story. Are you ready to build unshakable confidence? Let's begin. Number 1, fairness is a beautiful ideal, not a universal reality. Here's the first truth. Expecting perfect fairness from an imperfect world can hold you back. Every time you wait endlessly for fair treatment, someone else is moving forward. Every time you follow unwritten rules that others ignore, you're limiting yourself. You've been conditioned to believe that being fair at all costs makes you noble. In reality, sometimes it makes you predictable to those who take advantage. Think about your own life. How many times have you given respect to someone who showed you none? How many times have you helped someone who never helped you back? How many times have you waited patiently while others confidently stepped forward? This isn't because you're unlucky. This is because you've been following rules that manipulators don't follow. Machiavelli observed, men should either be treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries, for heavy ones, they cannot. Now, he was talking about political power in Renaissance Italy, not modern life. But the psychological principle remains: when you set weak boundaries with aggressive people, you invite more boundary violations. When you're unclear about what you'll accept, people will test those limits. Here's what healthy psychological boundaries actually look like. When someone disrespects you, you don't need to argue or over-explain why they're wrong. You simply demonstrate through your actions that you value yourself enough to maintain standards. You don't beg people to treat you better. You create situations where mutual respect becomes the natural foundation of your relationships. Be fair, absolutely. But also be wise. Understand that not everyone operates with the same integrity you do. Number 2, emotional discipline is true strength. Most people think being strong means losing control and lashing out. They're completely wrong. True strength is the opposite. It's calm emotional discipline. Emotionally disciplined people don't get reactive, they get strategic. They don't make decisions from hurt feelings, they make decisions from clear assessment of what serves their highest good. This is why emotionally reactive people struggle to build real influence. They're predictable. They can be manipulated by anyone who knows which buttons to push. They give their power away every time someone makes them lose composure. Psychologically aware people understand that emotions are information, not commands. They feel the anger, frustration, or disappointment, but they don't let these feelings control their actions. Let me give you an example. Someone publicly embarrasses you or tries to undermine your reputation. The reactive person gets defensive, argues, tries to explain why they're right. This often makes them look weak and validates the attacker's power. The emotionally disciplined person does something different. They notice the attack, feel the emotion, then pause and ask, what response would best serve my dignity and long-term goals? Maybe they ignore the attack completely, demonstrating that the attacker isn't worth their energy. Maybe they respond with calm, factual correction that makes the attacker look foolish. Maybe they use the attack as an opportunity to show their superior composure. The key is that their response is chosen, not triggered. Think about the most psychologically grounded people you know. Do they lose their temper regularly? Do they get into shouting matches? Do they let others control their emotional state? No. They maintain emotional sovereignty. They choose their battles. They respond from wisdom, not from wounded feelings. This emotional discipline becomes a tremendous source of personal power. When others know they can't manipulate your emotions, they start treating you with respect. Master your emotional responses. Let others react while you thoughtfully respond. Number 3, self-respect matters more than constant approval. This truth might challenge your people-pleasing tendencies. Being respected is different from being liked by everyone, and often more valuable for your well-being. When people merely like you because you never say no, they may take you for granted because they assume you'll always accommodate them. When people respect your self-worth, they think twice before crossing your boundaries. People who never set boundaries are often seen as safe and predictable, which sometimes means easy to take advantage of. People with healthy self-respect are seen as more formidable. They're treated with consideration because others know they value themselves appropriately. Think about your social circles. Who gets the most respect? The person who agrees with everyone, or the person whose authentic opinion actually carries weight? Machiavelli observed, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one has to lack one of the two." Again, he was talking about political leadership in a volatile era. But the modern application is simpler: it's better to be respected than to be taken for granted. This doesn't mean being intimidating. It means being someone others know they cannot disrespect without consequences, consequences that are fair, clear, and consistent. Here's how this works in practice. People who lack boundaries say yes to requests they don't want to fulfill because they fear disappointing others. People with healthy self-worth say no without excessive guilt because they prioritize their own well-being. People who lack boundaries accept disrespect hoping it will stop. People with self-worth address disrespect calmly and clearly. People who lack boundaries constantly seek inclusion and approval. People with self-worth are selective about where they invest their energy. The shift from approval-seeking to self-respect is profound. Instead of asking, will they like me if I do this, you start asking, does this align with my values and well-being? Instead of trying to make everyone comfortable, you become comfortable with others occasionally being uncomfortable with your boundaries. Instead of desperately seeking approval, you become someone whose approval others value because it's authentic. This isn't about becoming difficult. It's about becoming someone whose respect is meaningful, because you don't give it away to those who don't value it. Build healthy self-worth through consistent demonstration of your standards. Let others earn your respect instead of giving it freely to those who don't appreciate it. Number 4. Decisive action creates authentic influence. Here's where many people undermine their own influence. They make weak moves repeatedly instead of strong moves occasionally. They make threats they never follow through on. They give multiple warnings that train others to ignore them. They try to control through nagging, pleading, or emotional manipulation. This creates a reputation problem. People learn that your words have no real weight behind them. Psychologically aware people operate differently. They give fewer warnings, but when they act, their actions are clear and consistent. They understand that credibility is built through follow-through. Machiavelli wrote, "If an injury has to be done to a man, it should be so severe that his vengeance need not be feared." In modern terms, when you must address a boundary violation, make your response clear enough that the lesson sticks, without being excessive or punitive. Let me give you a concrete example. Someone in your circle consistently disrespects you, interrupting you, dismissing your opinions, making inappropriate jokes at your expense. The weak response is to keep asking them to stop, getting increasingly frustrated, complaining to others about their behavior. This actually reinforces their behavior because they see they can affect you without facing real consequences. The effective response is different. You calmly address the pattern once, clearly stating your boundary. If it continues, you then act. Perhaps you limit your interaction with them, or you no longer include them in activities you organize. You don't need to announce this as punishment. You simply allocate your energy where it's appreciated. This creates psychological impact. Others see that your boundaries have meaning. They also see that you're not someone who makes empty statements. When you communicate a boundary, you honor it. This principle works in all areas. Instead of constantly trying to convince people of your value, you occasionally demonstrate it through your actions. Instead of always being available, you're sometimes appropriately unavailable, making your time and energy respected. Instead of arguing your position repeatedly, you take actions that make your position clear. Communicate your boundaries clearly, but follow through consistently. Build a reputation for integrity rather than empty words. Number 5. Perception matters alongside reality. This is a sophisticated aspect of social dynamics, understanding that how others perceive you influences how they treat you, and managing that perception isn't manipulation, it's communication. Most people focus entirely on being good and assume others will naturally recognize their value. But human psychology doesn't work that way. People don't have time to investigate your character deeply. They make judgments based on what they observe. If you don't communicate your value through your presence and actions, others may never discover it. Machiavelli understood this: everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. This means that for many people you encounter, your outward presentation shapes their initial impression. Your reputation precedes you. Your perceived value influences your opportunities. Psychologically sophisticated people understand this and ensure their presentation aligns with their authentic qualities. This isn't about being fake. It's about being clear in communicating who you are. Think about professional contexts. Two people accomplish the same thing. One documents it professionally, sharing their achievements appropriately. The other says nothing, assuming their work speaks for itself. Who gets more recognition and opportunities? The same principle applies in social interactions. Your body language, voice tone, presence, and confidence communicate your self-worth before you say a single word. If you walk into a room with calm confidence, make appropriate eye contact, and speak clearly, people unconsciously register you as someone substantial. If you slouch, avoid eye contact, and speak tentatively, people may unconsciously underestimate you. The psychological principle is simple: people often treat you according to how you present yourself. Here's how authentic self-presentation works in practice. You share your successes appropriately without bragging. You associate with positive, ambitious people who elevate your environment. You maintain some healthy privacy so people respect your boundaries. You project calm confidence even when you feel uncertain, because confidence is attractive and self-doubt can push opportunities away. Your reputation matters. Cultivate it authentically, but don't neglect it. Number 6, framing shapes understanding. This is a powerful communication skill, controlling not just what happens, but how events get interpreted. Every situation can be framed multiple ways. The same action can be seen as leadership or arrogance, confidence or selfishness, strength or aggression. The person who communicates effectively shapes how their actions are understood. Most people focus entirely on their actions and ignore how those actions will be interpreted. This can lead to misunderstandings. Think about any conflict you've witnessed. The person who communicates their perspective clearly and calmly often gains more understanding, regardless of who was initially right. Machiavelli noted, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality." People don't have time to investigate every situation deeply. They rely on the information they receive. Clear communication about your perspective helps others understand you better. This means developing skill in explaining your actions. Actions when appropriate. When you succeed, you can appropriately share how you achieved it. When you face challenges, you can frame them as learning experiences. When others misunderstand you, you can offer clarification. Here's how effective framing works in practice. When you make a difficult decision that might be unpopular, you explain your reasoning, focusing on principles and values rather than defensiveness. When someone misrepresents you, you don't just react, you calmly offer your perspective. When you achieve something significant, you share credit appropriately while acknowledging your contribution. Let me give you a concrete example. You decide to distance yourself from a toxic person who has been draining your energy. They might tell people you're selfish. If you don't communicate your perspective, people might believe them. But if you appropriately share your experience, "I needed to set boundaries with someone who was affecting my mental health and didn't respect basic friendship reciprocity," people who know you will understand. Same action, clearer understanding. Advanced communication means considering not just what you do, but how your actions might be perceived, and communicating clearly when necessary. Share your perspective before others shape it for you. Number 7, natural consequences create healthy dynamics. The most sustainable approach to relationships doesn't rely on emotion, threats, or manipulation. It relies on creating natural patterns where certain behaviors lead to certain outcomes. This is relationship wisdom because it removes unnecessary conflict from the equation. When your responses are based on getting angry or making threats, you're giving others control over your emotional state. They can push your buttons and trigger reactions. But when you create natural patterns where respect leads to connection and disrespect leads to distance, you maintain peaceful relationships. Here's how healthy dynamics work in practice. Instead of arguing with people who don't respect your time, you simply become less available when they need you. Instead of getting angry at people who take advantage of your generosity, you quietly redirect your help to those who show appreciation. Instead of trying to convince people to treat you better, you invest more energy in relationships that are naturally mutually respectful. Let me give you a specific example. You have friends who always expect you to plan activities, but they frequently cancel last minute. The reactive approach is to get frustrated, complain, or give guilt trips. The wiser approach is different. I plan activities for people who show up and communicate reliably. If someone develops a pattern of canceling, I stop investing disproportionate energy in including them. I don't announce this as punishment. I simply allocate my social energy where it's appreciated and reciprocated. People who value your effort receive more of it. People who waste your effort naturally receive less of it. This creates healthy dynamics because people who value your friendship will naturally adjust their behavior to maintain connection. The most powerful part of this approach is that it's peaceful. You don't have to constantly enforce rules or remind people of boundaries. Natural patterns do the work for you. Create natural patterns where people's behavior toward you influences your investment in the relationship. Let mutual respect be the foundation of your connections. Number 8. Quiet confidence is true power. Here's the final and most crucial lesson. True confidence doesn't need constant announcement. People who constantly talk about how tough, smart, or influential they are usually aren't. They're advertising what they wish they possessed rather than demonstrating what they actually have. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself. Real influence works through presence. Real confidence is felt rather than declared. The most psychologically grounded people in any room are often the quietest ones. They're observing while others are performing. They're thinking while others are reacting. They're present while others are posturing. Think about the most confident people you've encountered. Do they constantly remind you of their achievements? Do they brag about their influence? Do they threaten people who disagree with them? No. Their confidence is assumed, not announced. Their value is demonstrated through presence, not through declarations. Machiavelli captured this beautifully. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. This means being wisely adaptable, knowing when to be strategically thoughtful and when to be confidently strong. But the key is transitioning seamlessly without needing to prove yourself to everyone. In practical terms, this means you don't need to announce every achievement. Your work and character will speak for themselves over time. You don't need to prove yourself to everyone who doubts you. Let your consistent actions build your reputation. Quiet confidence looks like this. You work on building genuine skills without constantly seeking validation. You position yourself for opportunities without making every ambition obvious. You learn about others while being appropriately selective about what you reveal. You build connections that serve mutual growth without making those connections all about transaction. You protect your peace without needing others to know you're protecting it. This isn't about being secretive. It's about understanding that discretion is often wiser than full transparency about everything. When you operate with quiet confidence, people start experiencing your presence without needing constant explanations. Your influence becomes natural rather than forced. Build your confidence quietly. Let others make noise while you build substance. Demonstrate your value. Through results, not through announcements. Here's the final truth that will determine whether you continue feeling overlooked or start building genuine confidence. If you don't understand human psychology, you're more vulnerable to those who do. This isn't a philosophical debate. This is social dynamics happening around you every day. Right now, while you've been learning these principles, some people are using similar insights ethically, and some are using them manipulatively. Manipulative people target those who don't understand boundaries. Psychologically aware people protect themselves and build healthy relationships. The choice is straightforward: become someone who understands social dynamics, or remain vulnerable to those who do. You may have been conditioned to think that learning about psychology makes you manipulative. That's exactly what manipulative people want you to believe. They want you to remain naive and predictable while they operate with sophisticated understanding. Every day you delay understanding these principles is another day you might be giving advantage to those who see kindness as weakness. Every day you choose to remain passive instead of becoming socially aware is another day you might be undervalued in situations where you deserve recognition. The world doesn't need more people who finish last despite their goodness. The world needs more good people who also understand how to navigate social dynamics effectively. If these truths have awakened something in you, if you're tired of feeling overlooked despite your value, then prove it. Like this video to show you're ready to understand social dynamics. Share it with someone who needs to understand that goodness without wisdom is vulnerable to manipulation. Subscribe because these lessons are just the beginning of your journey, from feeling overlooked to becoming confidently self-assured. Remember what you wrote in the comments: I choose to understand human nature and build authentic confidence. Now it's time to take action. The choice is yours. But choose wisely, because while you're deciding whether to become socially aware, those who already are have already made their choice.